Hi guys, my name's Alana. Welcome to my channel. If you're new here, please press that red subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up. I post videos every Friday on mental health topics. If you'd like to check out my business, I sell sensory boxes and I have quite a lot of different options. If you're wondering, go to my link tree and visit my website where I have a store where you can view all the sensory boxes that I have and mental health resources, free crisis resources. I have a lot of stuff on my website that you can use for your mental health. If you're looking for support and just want to talk to someone, there are links to free counseling services and a bunch of different options. For today's video, I'm going to be talking about what happens if you present to emergency for a mental health condition. And I wanted to just make a short video explaining what could potentially happen. Obviously, this is going to vary country to country and state to state, but I'm just going off my experience within Australia, which is pretty similar, I think, in any state within Australia. I am going to be talking about only my experience, but hopefully this will help you. If you are presenting to emergency, you could be presenting in a number of ways. So this could be if you're bringing yourself in. So you are in a mental health crisis and you are at risk to yourself or others. Either you've deemed yourself unsafe or maybe a family member or someone else has, or a GP. This can also be if you go to a GP appointment. I've had this before where I've gone to a GP appointment and then my GP has sent me to emergency from there and said you can either take yourself, like I got someone else to take me, but you could either take yourself, and then my GP rang and told them I was coming and sent a letter over and said why I was going to be presenting, and then they handled it from there. But then also you can be taken by ambulance from your GP or taken by ambulance from your home, be taken by police in certain situations. Presenting on your own, what you would do is, so you would go into your local emergency center, and you go up to like the desk or wherever the nurse kind of is, and they will ask you kind of like, quite like privately, but they'll ask you like, so why, what's your reason for coming to emergency? And then you will tell them like your reason. So, it could be a number of things, like any sort of mental health crisis. You could go there if you're feeling unsafe. So you could say, I don't feel safe mentally. You could present if you're feeling suicidal. Could be presenting due to certain injuries. You could be presenting because maybe you've done certain behaviors and then you need treatment. So then you would need to tell them what you've potentially taken, what you've done. You would explain quick kind of to them, and then they will just get your details and information. And then what they would do is you generally have to kind of sit back down and wait, but it depends on why you're there. This kind of ranges. So sometimes I've been taken straight away because, like I was saying, it depends on your reason of why you're going. So one time I was going more just like because I was feeling suicidal. So for example, I don't think they made me sit in the actual waiting area of the emergency department. I think they took me and put me straight into like this room, which I'll go into in a minute. Another time I presented and I had done things like physically, so they took me straight away. And because I had to be put in medical ward, the first time I went was due to having a manic episode, so I was seen a lot quicker this time. And because I went during the day, if you present at nighttime, it's generally a lot longer wait. I have waited up to 8 hours before in emergency. I think the shortest time I've ever been seen is maybe 4 hours, 5 hours. It's a very, very long wait unless you have done something where you need urgent, like right now, medical attention. Unless you were taken maybe by ambulance, from my experience, unless you're severely unwell, and they can't really get like security to kind of watch you, or police or whatever it is, generally, like, it takes a long time. Just be aware that once you go for a mental health concern, you can't leave, because you are then kind of considered like their responsibility and like a risk. So you can't leave even if it's been like 4 hours and you're like, I don't want to be here anymore. Okay, so once you present, they get your details. You will either sit in the waiting room just like with everyone else, or they will take you through to the emergency like ward area. Either treat you medically, or you will wait generally just in like a mental health room, which is basically just like, it's literally a room with like nothing in it. It's terrible. There's no TV. Like, yeah, you might get a bottle of water. This unfortunately is just, the mental health system is just designed very poorly. They have changed this at my local hospital. From what I've heard, I have a friend who is the head of this like new department, where when you present to emergency with a mental health concern, depending on what it is, if it's a less like kind of serious thing psychiatrically, they will get peer workers, and they have a separate little area where you can actually go and chat to a peer worker. I just like let you talk to them, and they will get you like, if a cup of tea, or if you haven't eaten anything, they might get you some food, like um things like that, and they will try to kind of give you resources or refer you on from there. If you are a more acute case, I think, say you needed like more urgent help, like if you were in the middle of a manic episode, this clearly wouldn't probably be a good option, I would assume. I haven't presented to the hospital since they put this new program in, but I would assume they wouldn't do this for you, because if you're manic, obviously you're not going to be able to sit down. They can't deal with you with like this team, and I don't know if this is at every hospital. I think this might just be at my local one, because it's like a new thing they've put in, because I think the problem is that people were presenting to emergency all the time, like I was, and you would sit there for 8 hours, 6 hours waiting in a room with literally nothing in it, and you couldn't leave. And nurses may come and check on you like every 5 minutes. And it's like, when you're in a mental health crisis, you cannot leave somebody in a room for 6 hours just sitting there. That is not good when someone is having a crisis and someone is just distressed, upset, suicidal, at risk to themselves, sitting there with their thoughts alone. I mean, the door's open, like, and stuff, and nurses do come and check on you, and there's like nothing in there really for you to really do anything with. But and obviously hospitals have security and people around, but it still isn't ideal. So this is why they put this thing in at my local hospital. From there, then you will wait either in that room, you might wait in the main emergency area, but generally they'll kind of take you through and triage you. What they'll do is they just take your vitals, so they'll just like check your blood sugar, they'll check your blood pressure. They will ask you probably like what you've had to eat or drink during the day, if you've had like if you have taken any substances, or had any alcohol potentially. I don't know what else they ask you, but it would just be like a general like nurse who works in emergency, whoever's on. And then you basically just sit there and wait for the ACT team, which is the acute care team. They are the mental health team, kind of like the crisis team. They will come from the mental health unit. So the acute care unit generally, well, where I live, this is how it goes, and they're just like the mental health liaison team. They have different people, but they have psychiatrists, social workers, mental health nurses, mental health clinicians, and depending on what the issue is, they will send someone over to come and ask you a bunch of questions. So they will ask you what has brought you here. You'll be asked this a lot. Why are you here? Like, what's going on? They'll ask you a brief history of your mental health history. If you've got someone with you, they'll talk to them. They'll do that. Again, if you've done something physically to yourself, then they will still do this. But generally, it's like a doctor or a psychiatrist who will probably come see you. With the mental health team, it depends on what the issue is. Like, once they've kind of asked you all these questions, then if you need medication, they'll get a psychiatrist. If you need an admission, so if they deem you unsafe and they think you need an admission into the psychiatric unit, they will admit you and do that process. If you're at risk of being homeless, they might connect you with the homelessness shelter in your local area. They, if you need a social worker, if it really depends, it could be a wide range of things. They have a lot of different people, and it depends on what the issue is. So I've gone for a lot of different reasons, but for example, when I first went to emergency the first time, it was because I was having a manic episode. So I actually spoke to a mental health clinician, a doctor, and a psychiatrist who was on shift. And then from there, they said to me, they suspected that I had bipolar, and they kind of deemed it as a manic episode, and then they gave me medication to take home with me, and they said come back, like, either it was, they did a home visit like the day after, and then they got me to come back to the mental health unit, like at the hospital, and then they did like a full assessment and connected and then diagnosed me with bipolar, and then put me under like a specific hospital team. It was like an outpatient thing, where they would treat young people who were developing bipolar or psychosis or psychotic disorders. So I didn't even know these things existed. This is why sometimes it's a waste of time going to emergency and they just kind of send you home and it's not helpful. Sometimes you go, like the first time I went, and it's really helpful, and you get a really good psychiatrist, or you get somebody who really gives you referrals to like a team that you didn't know existed within the hospital. So like there are a lot of things that they can do that you probably don't even know. Like I didn't even know this team existed. Put me under like this team that specialized in these disorders. Yeah, but they did like they do home visits as well to check on you. Like they'll ring you when you're at home to check on you, how are you going, and if you need to come back, you can come back to emergency. But yes, you'll either get seen by a doctor, psychiatrist, mental health clinician, social worker, and again, it depends on what it is. That's really what happens. Obviously, if they deem you unsafe or whatever, and they want to admit you, then that's a different process. Yeah, that's basically what happens. It can be like really scary presenting to emergency when you haven't ever done that before. And I think the thing that holds a lot of people back is that you always kind of say to yourself, oh, I'm not really that bad, or I don't really need to go, or, like, do I really want to go through, once you've been before and you're like, I had to wait 8 hours, you're like, I'm not doing that again. But the problem is that a lot of the time, once you get to a certain point when you're in crisis, a GP or just a general outpatient clinician won't be able to help you. And if it's out of hours, which a lot of the time mental health crises happen late at night or early in the morning and things like that, and so there aren't services open or available. And if you need immediate help, emergency department is the only place you're going to get it. And if you're unsafe or other people deem you as unsafe, that's the only option. So unfortunately, the system is very badly designed in the fact that you have to wait so long. It's just that, it really just depends on what time you go, what your local hospital is like. At the end of the day, it depends on how much you tell them as well, how much information you give. They try not to admit people. They really don't want to just shove you in hospital. So don't be scared of going to emergency thinking they're going to put me in hospital, because That's what I used to think all the time. Every time I went, I was like freaking out, like they're gonna put me in hospital. But they really try to avoid it. They really do. They have a lot of things in place to support you in the community if they can. But if you are too unsafe or your vitals like physically aren't great, they're going to admit you, and they do have certain criteria. The main reasons that you would potentially be admitted, like I said, is if you're unsafe to yourself or others and it can't be managed adequately in the community. If you need the help, you need to go. And don't think that you're not sick enough. Don't think that you're wasting services or that you don't really need the support, or don't just think, well, they're not going to do anything. Because I know with me, I'm always like, well, what are they going to do? Like, they're not going to be able to do anything. Or they're not going to be able to help, or blah, blah, blah. And at the end of the day, you don't actually know. You don't know until you go. So, you know, especially if you have someone else with you who's willing to take you and saying, look, if you want to go, I'll drive you right now. Or if you need the ambulance called or something, we will do that. Just go. Because it's better to be safe than sorry. And you don't know, like I said, they have a lot of services and teams and people that you don't even know exist. And you could actually end up with a really good referral. Thank you guys for watching the video. I hope you found this helpful. Please comment down below any video suggestions. Yeah, I will see you in my next video.